Here we go. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play podcast, where we come to you with strategies, tips, cool little tricks of the real estate game of investing, and just the years of experience of us coming in and doing it. And we just want to give a quick update what's going on in our businesses and help you build your business in real estate investing. Today we have the man Mark Monroe is here from Florida, the sunny side of Florida, not the dark side of Florida. There's no hurricane on your side, is there?
No, not yet. There's two systems out there, but not yet. But Gabe, guess what?
What?
This is our 100th recording episode.
This is
Isn't that
it.
crazy?
Wow, I
This is
feel like I
100.
should have redone it again. Why don't we stop it and redo it again? Today, guys, is our 100th episode. Wow, that was a cool spring. I thought that was the last one, but no, here we are.
No,
What's
that was
up?
99. Yeah,
Um,
cool.
yeah,
Hopefully,
that's
we brought a
exciting.
lot of good value to everybody. I'm hoping so. And if you guys are listening and there's a topic you guys want us to talk about, throw it in the chat, hit us up. We'll be more than happy. But yeah, Gabe, thanks so much over the time helping out. And, Ronnie and Marty as well. We're all just hopefully we're here
That's
helping
exciting.
everybody out to bring some value to everybody. But I'm doing great, Gabe. Thanks so much for asking.
Well, look, guys, we're gonna hit this hard today. Today is the topic of pretty much why we started this whole podcast is just helping people learn cash flow strategies, long-term strategies, building net worth, building growth, and just so you can just add what's it like to add another $1,000 a month, 2,000, 3,000, 5, 10, $20,000 a month of cash flow to your family's net worth, right? Is just a huge thing, and so let's dive into that. We're not going to do so much of multifamily and commercial right now. Because it's such a big topic for us to just really help people on. We're just going to hammer out on single family right now because we have probably 10 different strategies just in 10, well, something like that, 7 different strategies just for single family. So, Mark, what is the idea of building net worth? How do you do it? Is that my echo or yours?
Probably go ahead.
So how do we do this? How do you go and buy net worth? First thing that someone says is rental houses. Yes, you want to have rental houses. I'd say that's probably number one. But what is the overlaying strategy of just building net worth to you?
Risk is always the first thing I always look at. No matter what asset I'm looking at, is the risk factor. So that's my number one thing. We've been through the bumps, and once you get hit a few times on the some of your real estate assets, you kind of learn how to underwrite to the risk factor immediately. When you first come into it and you haven't been hurt or you haven't been through any type of a fix and flip, and you have going $50,000 over budget because of whatever may came up, or trying to get a tenant out that takes quite a bit of time. You kind of learn on evaluating risk. That's my first thing I look at. Then the other thing, what I love to do, and I've been doing this for years, and even when the market was hot, I've always loved buying through seller financing strategies and then sell through seller financing strategies and staying in the middle and creating the arbitrage. That's my number one. That's what I always try to do every single time, because I don't have to worry about leaky toilets, the roof, and all that stuff. That's passed on to the end buyer. But that's for me. I look at that, and then if it doesn't work, then I look at does it make sense holding? I look at everything through the different strategies. But anyways, Gabe, how about you? What do you look at? Let's turn around and
Well, hold on. I want to
ask
back
me
up
a
a second.
question.
One of the things that Mark is really good at, and for those who don't know, is just doing creative strategies on long-term type deals. It's not just short-term type stuff. So the creative strategies, and he briefly went over that, but one of the things is doing wraps, doing sandwich leases, stuff like that. It called different things in different states. And when he says arbitrage, he's meaning that he either holds the paper or he holds the note, or he's the guy in between without actually owning, having, I guess on paper, you actually have ownership of the property. So it's kind of like an in between. It's like you could do a sub 2, right? Or you could do a wrap note. And all these things create cash flow One of the things I like what Mark does is and you've helped me do this on a couple things, is basically have a buyer come in and say, okay, you're going to buy it from me at this time. We just did one in Orlando. That our deal in Orlando that we did. And so you have a future payoff date, whatever time that may be. The seller comes in, you basically take over that note from the seller, right? And then we have this buyer that's making payments in the meantime, right? And it's basically they have an option to purchase the property at said dollar amount in the future. Now, what's really cool about that is you have all of the strategies all in one. And that's why I love Mark so much and how he comes up with these different things, is because you're doing the whole package. You have the purchase side, the seller financing. You have how you're going to acquire it. You have how you're going to finance it, which is really cool. You have how you're going to get the down payment. And you also have the exit strategy all set up within the first, how long did it take us to do that? 45 days, something like that?
Something like that.
Well, yeah, that one didn't take too long, but I did enter into the agreement several years ago with a seller. And then, yes, we end up doing the end with their end buyer. Yeah, it's about 45 days, where the end buyer kind of executing it. So you're right. That was a nice one. I mean, we purchased that one on a subject to, helped the lady out. She was behind in a mortgage. And get this, I didn't tell you this. I had a phone call with her actually afterwards, and she was on the loan with her son. And because we stopped the foreclosure and we brought it current several years ago, and we made good payment history over 3 years on it, when we sold that off, her son's credit score jumped up over 800. They called me up and
What?
they were thanking they were thanking so much because they didn't have that foreclosure on their credit.
Man, dude, that is a story.
Yeah,
Wow. That makes you feel good inside. Wow, cool. Yeah, I'm working on one right now. It's a long-term strategy, and she's over 65, 70 years old, something like that. Her husband's in dire need of medical attention every day now, had some medical issues, and she's in the same spot. She's like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, listen, why don't we figure out a way where we can take over payments? I could pay you some money in between, and we can get your credit back up and going, but you're not going to do it the best way. I mean, if you think about it, those people who have house notes, if you have a house note, it's the best way to increase your credit, right? Is a loan on, it's just weird how this market is, but it's just what it is. All right. Well, if you have that and you're behind 30, 60, 90 days, it's really going to jack up your credit. Well, what you can do is you could come in and help out the seller and say, listen, it's normally called a sub 2 in my world, right? And you're taking over a property subject to. It's also called debt takeover in commercial world. And so you're just keeping that product going. And just like Mark said, that's an amazing story. Someone went up from almost darn near being, what was that, a foreclosure, bankruptcy, or was it just a foreclosure?
No, they were 2 months behind going into foreclosure. They couldn't make the payments. Something happened in her life and they couldn't even sell the property at the time. They're actually going to have to come to the table with some capital on that one. And we ended up, and I actually ended up giving them $10,000 to move, brought their payment current. Cost about $16,000 to get into that deal on the front end. And we got $22,000 from our buyer to kind of put down. So we kind of offset it. And then we cash flowed about $700 a month on that one over 7 years. So that worked out really well.
Yeah. And then we made some cash flow in the end too. So, or not cash flow, but cash out. All right. So there's that strategy. Okay. We have the normal strategy of doing a rental properties, rental houses. You could add in multifamily, I guess, into that. So the strategy is this. Basically, you're looking at two things. You're looking at having immediate cash flow. The immediate cash flow takes care of the needs of the property. I just want to give everyone a heads up that if you're thinking that a $400 cash flow on a property is sufficient, this is a month, is sufficient. In some areas, it's not. In some areas, you got to look at what other work needs to be put into the property. All right. If it's going to need a new roof coming up pretty soon, or AC, or there might be some other issues with the property that's going to come up. Take that stuff into consideration. Keep a nest egg aside. We just have everything in different companies, and then we just don't even touch those bank accounts, because eventually something's going to happen where you're going to need that cash, right? And you're going to need to go in there, and the tenant moves out. You need to get it make ready for the next one. Maybe they destroy the home. So you're going to want to have some cash on hand in that reserve that's going to take care of the AC unit or whatever. The second part of this, and there's an echo on here. The second part of this, Mark, is the fact that you're looking at net worth. Now, how does net worth get gained, Mark? Net worth doesn't get gained on just the purchase of it, but it's also gained on the sell or the possible value of the property, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how would you look at that for rental properties? And when you look at that, you're looking at it for saying, you said the downside risk. Okay. So you have a rental house, and I know you have a few of those already, plenty of them. I'm just joking, guys. So he acquires these things, plans on the cash flow, know you're going to make money. But I like your strategy is you already know, you hold on to something knowing if I need to get rid of this property, this is what I could sell it at, right?
Yeah, you always want to have an exit, plan C. That's what I would call it. A, B, and C, which is to get out of the property for
Okay,
whatever
and that's
reason.
your net worth side of it, though. Like that's the side that you're going, hey, this is some stuff that it's acquiring over time. And I've seen you have properties, right? That you're like, holy moly, this thing just went up this much in value.
True, but also I've had one. I've like that one last year. I went the opposite direction. I just, you know, because I had a tenant that was working the system, but again, it was a state that I wouldn't do a lease option again in that state. So it works. I mean, you hopefully have enough winners to offset your losers on that one. So, but yeah, she nailed it right on the head. You're just kind of anticipating, and being in Florida, these assets. Look at what the Florida assets have done in the last 5 years down here. Well, pretty much everywhere, even where you're at.
Yeah, totally. So let's go into that. So, guys, we're also looking at taxes and insurance. Now, for those who we're in 2023, we're in September 2023. Reality is, if you're in the coastal region from Corpus Christi all the way down to Florida and just go around that loop, your insurance is probably going way higher than what you've ever had before. And that's just the market that we're in at this current moment. In the Houston metro area, taxes are really killing deals, right? And so what some people thought would be a massive amount of net worth is kind of hurting them, because now if you picked it up at, let's say, 100 grand and now it's worth 300, well, the taxes are starting to catch up to that, right? And the more value that it has, for those who don't know, the property taxes go up, and that's going to come out of your cash flow, right?
Gabe, I just want to tell you, we had one. I did one here in Florida, another one in the Orlando area. And after a year, required that one through a seller financing strategy as well. After a year, when they readjust it, the taxes went up over $500 a month. Lucky we had enough spread in it, but I've never
Whoa.
seen anything jump that much.
Yeah, and we're starting to see some crazy stuff now. So this is one of the ways that we look at long-term strategies, guys, is when you look at the cash flow has to cover the nut. But the reality is I'm part of many groups that only focus on single family. I got my guys in my own networking group that this is all they do, single family investing, long-term strategy. And most of them are saying, listen, at the end of the day, as long as it takes care of the tenant, takes care of the cash flow of any repairs that needs to be done, taxes, insurance, and you're positive on your note, you're really thinking about the long-term gain over these assets. That's it. I have a friend of mine who they all bought in the 09 era, 08, 2010 era, and they only had 6 houses. That's it, just 6 houses. And whenever they went to go buy their new home, they have a new build, it's all taken care of. They sold 4 of those houses. And now the cash or the net worth or the equity from those houses went up so much. I mean, this is a really nice looking home, probably hitting the $1 million range. And those 4 houses basically paid off all their note, and they're living without any debt on their home just from those houses, right? And that took them about 12 years to do. But in the meantime, they had multiple tenants. They had uh-ohs, they had things they had to do and clean outs and all those other things. This is just stuff that you have to keep into consideration, right? Mark, what's another long-term either cash flow and net worth play that we can help people with just grabbing strategies on?
Buying notes.
Buying notes.
Buying notes right now. Yep. It's
Okay,
another
well,
one.
let's go into
That's
that.
another whole topic. That's
Yeah,
another whole topic, but
yeah.
yes. Yep.
So let's go into the basics of what's buying a note and how can people even get started in buying a note and or doing a note.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of these people doing seller financing out there, they're structuring a seller financing or even a seller, you can go out there and buy that note and buy it at a discount because some of these people need to sell immediately, especially in the land world right now. You can buy a note like at 50% of what the note value is. So you can go out there and buy it, and you're getting almost like anywhere between a 15 to an 8%, 15 to 18% return on that. And if they default on it, you get to take it back and just resell it again. It's a little easier process, but that's just another world. So I'm putting some of the notes into that, and then I went to the note conference up in Nashville, the DMV one. I highly recommend if anybody's in Nashville. I think they're going to be doing it again May of next year. That's another whole thing of understanding, especially if you're doing seller financing, creating seller financing notes, and you can sell them off into the secondary market. So that's another whole avenue going down.
Yeah. So in short, let's say you have a house. We do this on some of our park owned homes that we end up moving over to notes. Is that you have a house, someone wants to come and buy it. You can sell it at market value. You sell it as is, even because someone wants to come in and look at it and buy it and do whatever they want to do themselves. The reason why they're buying a house seller financed is why, Mark?
Traditionally, they can't get a loan with their typical bank or the mortgage company for if they're self-employed and they're not showing much income under taxes, or they have good jobs, but they may have some credit challenges where the credit score is just a little bit below, but they have a great job, and it's another opportunity to help people out that way. So it's just creating another whole market. That's usually the case. Go ahead.
So one of the things that and just kind of add to that is these people make great money sometimes. I mean, they're just doing really well. That's the people that you vet in. You could do an RMLO. In Texas, we use RMLOs for our notes, put them into the home. The RMLO goes and processes the whole thing, runs the credit, does the whole thing, puts them into the house, and then we're good to go. Now, what's really cool about that is that if you are seller financing, you can sell it at above normal more interest rates, which right now is going to be pretty high because interest rates are going up or are up. But you still can sell it at above interest rate or above normal market interest rate. The reason why is because the market interest rate is going to be institutional financing. You're going to do seller financing. You're taking more of a risk, right? So you're going to be in a charge a little bit more and go from there. Now, the other cool part about this, for those who don't know or those who want to create a note, is that you're also getting a down payment on a property. And this is really the cool part that creates sustainability for note buyers, right? So, or for if you're going to be creating seller financing strategies for your properties, so or doing the seller financing strategy. And what that looks like is, let's say you have a house that's selling for $200,000. You're going to ask for 10, 15% down, depending on their credit. They'll give you 20, 25, 30K. Sometimes people will give 50K down and saying, look, I just want to get this note paid off. Here's $50,000. I want to go towards this. So now you create a note that's worth $150,000 that you're acting like the bank that's backed by that current asset. So they pay you, or if you go through a servicer, they're paying the servicer ends up paying you, make sure the taxes and HOA and everything's covered for you. And so you go through that route, and that extra lump sum that you get for down payment, that's to feed your machine. That is not for you to go on vacation right away. All right. That's for you to go say, okay, this is my marketing. This is my growth strategy. This is how I keep going. This is how you pay your acquisition guys. This is how you pay your team or your broker or your realtors or other people that are involved. So that way it's not coming out of your pocket. In the meantime, now you're getting a straight cash flow model, right? This is the stuff that Mark loves. This is like very limited risk, right, Mark?
Keep going. Yep.
Okay.
Keep
So you're
going.
at very limited risk, and now you're cash flowing, but you're cash flowing in a different way. So what makes this different than a rental type strategy?
The headaches of like dealing with the tenants. I mean, think about it. If you own a car, right, and you get a flat tire or your battery goes, does your finance company care? They just want that payment.
So Mark is of many words today. So yes. So
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
that's it.
But anyways, yeah, you're correct about that. Yeah, you're right. But I'm part of this other mastermind group in Notes, and somebody in there, and I'm actually going to start putting this out. Somebody in there brought what he does on his seller financing, and it's genius. So when they structure it, they'll have the seller put 10% down, right? Then they will do a 70% first and a 20% second. So if anything ever happened, like say you get your loan call due or whatever, you can easily sell that first position off into the secondary market, um, and you can still keep that 20% of yourself. So I thought it was an amazing strategy. I'm actually in the process of doing that on a deal right now as we speak. So I'm going to wrap it that way, doing a 70-20, but they're still going to send one payment to the servicer all at once. But I thought that was
That's
pretty
cool.
nifty, and I'm actually
We
testing
have
that out.
that on about four of our properties or four notes that we have. We have that same setup, except it's an 80-20 split. It's really not even like there's a couple of them that's not even designed by percentage wise. It's probably like a 77.3, on the other side.
Yeah,
It was just like a solid number. Like I want 100 grand because I got the property at 100 grand. And that takes care of note number one, that takes care of my purchase of the property. So I bought it for 100 grand. Then first note's 100 grand, right? Then I can sell that off. It's actually a little bit more than that. So when you sell it, you can sell it at a discount so someone will buy it, right? And then I sold the property for 156 or something to that, for 154 or something like that. And so now I have 10% down. So they come bring 10%, which is they brought something like 20K down. So now I have this leftover note of 30 something $1,000. And that's the secondary. And so I'm just cash flowing off of that. So I sell the first note and now I have a secondary note that's just making money. But whenever the buyer makes the payment, they're making the full payment to the company. They don't have to make 2 or 3 or 4 different payments. They're making the full payment to the servicing company. It just
yeah.
makes it a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, I remember that when you did that deal, we were talking about that one. And I was like, I've
That was
always
fun.
said
That's
I
how we
won.
met. It was really way like 3-4 years ago, probably 4 years ago now. That's how long. So guys, this is really cool stuff. All right. So we have notes, we have note buying. All right, which is a fun strategy. Like Mark said, if you have cash on hand, you can go to note places. A good place you could go is to other money lenders because they create notes every day of the week, right? And some of them's long-term notes.
Yep, absolutely. And we've worked with many people that have IRAs where we just go ahead and deploy their capital into one of our assets, and they end up getting cash flow coming from it as well. So that's another avenue. Just if you have an IRA and you want to deploy it and partner up in with a real estate deal, and get monthly cash flow that way as well. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've done it. You've done it many times, Gabe.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is actually one of the first things I did as far as raising money was going to self-directed IRA companies. And there's people that just, you're vetting it. It's backed by real estate. As long as it's underwritten correctly and you're not buying some piece of junk, it's actually a pretty safe investment. Because you're buying it at a discount anyways. You're not buying it at retail pricing. Okay.
But you also need to make sure who you're doing the business with. The real estate investor knows what they're
100%.
doing. If it's a fix and flip or something like that, so there is a risk on that if you're not familiar with who you're doing business with. But yes, overall, you're pretty much protected with the asset because your property is against backed by the asset.
Perfect. Perfect. So, guys, we already went over, and this is streamlined. We're just crushing it real quick. All right. So, we went over rental properties. This is going to help you with creating cash flow, some cash flow, keep it for the repairs and everything, and net worth for long term. You have, what do we say? The seller financing strategy, right? Where Mark becomes or I become the bank, right? Um, Mark, you know what's cool is that you can borrow money to do seller financing strategy where you're not even really upside down or in the note at all, right? So you're
Correct.
not really bringing your own cash to that strategy sometimes, right?
Yep. And then the other one we talked briefly about is I love what's called the sandwich lease option strategy. That's another great way. It's
Why
like
don't
a
you go deeper into that? So what is that? And let's dig into that real quick. I know this is something that you love doing.
I love doing it in landlord friendly states. So be careful of that if you're not in a landlord friendly state. But it's the same thing as like a seller financing. You're controlling it through paper contract, if you will, with the seller allowing you to sublet the property to another tenant buyer or Airbnb. You can do whatever you want with that property as long as your agreement states that you're going to be subletting it on that way. And then you can create the arbitrage. And what you're doing, and I really loved, is you lock into a price now today, and then you can and you're selling it to your end buyer for future value. We did one in back in January, on that particular one. Same thing. I bought it from a realtor, another one up in Orlando, locked into a price for 179, and I also negotiated as long as I make my payments on or before the due date, I got a $150 credit applied towards the purchase price every month. And that was a 30-month contract. And then I sold it to my end buyer, my tenant end buyer, for 214,000. And on this one, all I had to do is technically just lock it up for $100 because she had a tenant in there. We did the agreement, and then I negotiated 2 months down, $1,200 for a month.
What does that
Market
mean?
rent was
What does that mean you negotiated 2 months down?
Yeah, so because you're doing a rental agreement. So like instead of first, last, and security, I just negotiated 2 months when I took over the property. So the market rent was 1350. I negotiated down to 1200 in only 2 months because I said I'm taking up the maintenance and repairs up to like 3500. Anything more than that, most only. So and then I also got a $150 credit applied each month. So then I went and found my end buyer, marked it for 214,000. The rent to them was $1,500 a month, and they had to put first month, last month in security, and 3% of the option fee down. So they put down a little bit more than $11,000, and out of that 11,000, I had to give the seller 2,300 because I did it, and cash flowed $300 a month, and they ended up buying it. And when they went to buy it, get this, when they went to buy it, it went up so much that property was worth $264,000, but they were buying it from me for 214. I was kind of wishing they
I
weren't going to buy
remember
it.
you telling me something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, but they made out too. Everybody made out. So the seller made out. I did well in the middle, and then even the buyer made out. They had $50,000 of equity on that because I honored, the agreement. And technically, they didn't notify me. They were supposed to notify me within 60 days that they're exercising the option, and they didn't do it. Technically, I could have not honored it, but I just wanted to honor it for them. They were good people. I only had to talk. And the beauty about that deal, out of 3 years, I only talked to them like 2 or 3 times in 3 years.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
a sandwich lease option. So you're controlling it through a rental agreement, a lease agreement, allowing you to sublet it and then end buyer. And it's a great strategy if you don't have a lot of capital to get into the property. And if you're worried, and I do this strategy now, if I have a seller that wants top dollar, like say the ARV is 300, they want 300, and it's a market that's been not going up and kind of stabilizing, increasing, and they want like right now I'm trying to get 5 years, but if they want like 3 years and they're open to seller financing, I'm not going to do seller financing. I'm going to do a lease option because if the value's not there, I can give the property back to them in 3 years.
Got it. So what happens to the repairs on those things? What do you guys normally do?
I pass that on to my end buyer,
Okay.
that they're responsible for maintenance and repairs. But and I also we get like home warranty to make for all the appliances, hot water. So we do that as well to kind of cover that. And but up to $3,500 technically. It could go either way, and that's why you got to be careful in a state that's not landlord friendly, because if something goes bad, depending on the state, they could say, "Oh, we're throwing out the purchase and sale agreement," and they're just going to stick with the lease agreement, and then you have the landlord tenant laws, and hey, you're responsible for it. But most states are okay with it, and you just make sure that whatever state you're doing that in, make sure you have an attorney review your contract in that state to make sure that you protect it. What I do now on them, and if I don't like to do it in those states, but if I do, let's say I want $2,500 a month, I will credit, I'll go ahead and put in a lease agreement $2,700 a month, with 200 of that being applied towards maintenance and repairs. So it shows that they're getting a credit each month
Got
for
it.
for the maintenance and repairs. So that's
Got it.
one way of structuring it. But again, check with an attorney.
So what
In
kind of
those
cash
states
flow
where,
could someone be looking at? They're not building net worth on this thing, right? That's not really the strategy.
well, I did. I built some net worth on that one. But yes, you can build net worth depending on how far you go out.
Okay.
Like you can build it and go out even further. Or you can buy it through it and then just put a tenant in there. I could have done that and go 5, 10 years,
Right.
and not even own it.
Right.
You can do that as well. But the cash flow on that one was like $300 a month.
Okay.
But some of them I've had $500 a month. It all depends on what it is. But I've done some where I was only cash flowing $50 a month, but the upside was over $70,000 of equity. So you have to kind of look at it and underwrite and see if it makes sense.
Got it. Got it. Well, guys, this is like a million different ways to do it. Right now, we know just maybe 7 to 8 main strategies of doing long-term, how to create cash flow, how to do create net worth. There's other stuff where people are acquiring properties and putting them as Airbnbs. We all know those ones, right? That's basically having a rental model where you're maintaining a property at that point.
The other one,
rental.
you heard about, I'm sorry to cut you off. Have you heard about the new model? And I love it. It's called Split Pad or Pad Split. I don't remember. I get it backwards.
I know someone who's doing that.
Model.
They have like 7 doors or something like that. Yeah.
It's an awesome model. I'm actually going to do that. And I actually had them on my, actually, I think we had them on here. We had them on the Power Play as a guest. I love that model. Where they're taking like a 3 or 4 bedroom home. It has to be like in a workforce neighborhood. Can't be like in a high end with HOA. And they're taking a living room and converting them into bedrooms. So, and they're renting them out on a per week basis for workforce. It's big in Orlando, so they're getting like $150 a night. I'm sorry, $150 a week, $200 a week per bedroom. And think about it, if you have,
Wow.
7 bedrooms, that's great cash flow.
Wow. Yeah, guys, there's so many cool things going on. All right, guys, we're going to head off for this time around. This is our 100th episode. If you guys want us to go over other things with real estate investing, going to deep dive into any of these strategies that we have done, or deep dive into other things like commercial, multifamily, industrial, shopping centers, you name it, definitely mobile home parks, storage facilities, guys, let us know so we can go and start putting that in there. And happy to help you guys out. Contact us, contact Mark, contact me. We're happy to help you grow your business, and we'll see you guys later. Mark, you got anything?
Hey, speaking of that, at the end here, I think you're selling one of your mobile home parks, right?
Yeah, we are looking at selling some mobile home parks that we have. So if you guys have, or if you guys are looking at buying mobile home parks, let us know.
All right, guys, take care. Thanks for sharing us, please. Take care, guys.